You've been told that being kind, available, and always saying yes would make a woman love you more. But what if I told you the exact opposite is true? Women fall hard for men who know how to say no, men who carry presence, live with stoicism, and guard their boundaries like a king defends his throne. This video is going to flip everything you thought you knew about attraction, and it's going to do it fast. Because the truth is, if you don't learn how to say no with confidence and inner strength, you'll keep chasing women, while the man who says no watches them come to him. Stay with me until the end, because if you miss even one piece of this, you'll keep falling into the same traps without even knowing it. If you feel like this message is speaking directly to you, help me bring it to more men who need to hear it. Just tap like, share with a brother, and drop your thoughts in the comments. It really makes a difference. Let's break down what really happens inside her mind when a man knows his worth and isn't afraid to say no. Why women fall hard for men who know how to say no. He said no to her once, and she hasn't stopped thinking about him since. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cruel. It was calm, intentional, and unapologetically direct. In a single moment, he shifted from just another guy to someone she couldn't quite figure out. That boldness hit different. While most men trip over themselves to please her, this one didn't flinch, and that changed everything. A boundary, when backed by self-respect, doesn't repel her. It pulls her in hard, not because of the word no, but because of what it says about the man who's strong enough to say it. Most men think saying no will make her lose interest. They fear she'll walk away, get offended, or feel rejected. But here's the twist. They're playing to avoid rejection, and in doing so, they become forgettable. The man who always says yes is not rewarded with love. He's met with indifference. A man who owns his masculinity, protects his boundaries, and moves with inner strength triggers a different reaction. He becomes the one she can't control, and therefore the one she obsesses over. Because if you can't say no, your yes means nothing. And women always know when a man has no spine. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about playing hard to get or being emotionally unavailable. This is about stoicism, emotional discipline that keeps a man grounded when the world pulls at him. When she sees that your approval doesn't come cheap and your emotions don't dance to her tune, you become a man of value. The rare kind. The kind she talks about to her friends and secretly compares others to. You shift from being an option to being a standard. And standards, my friend, are hard to forget, especially when they wear the calm weight of power. There's a reason women can't stop thinking about that one guy who never gave them everything they wanted. It's not about cruelty, it's about presence. He wasn't afraid of losing her, he didn't need her validation. He simply moved through life with a quiet dominance that left her guessing, and that's what stays in her mind. The man who doesn't flinch when she pushes, the one who stays grounded in his frame, unbothered and self-contained, not out of coldness, but out of deep, unwavering confidence. That's what she feels. That's what haunts her. That's what she craves. You've been told to be nice, to accommodate, to always make her feel comfortable. But what they didn't tell you is that saying yes all the time is a fast track to becoming emotionally invisible. It's not kindness, it's compliance. And compliance kills attraction, because when a woman realizes you're willing to bend at every turn, she stops seeing you as a man. She sees you as an emotional extension of herself. The truth is, your ability to say no is a reflection of your authenticity and self-worth. And without those, you're just another disposable option she barely remembers. Let me paint it clearly. Women don't test you because they want to hurt you. They test because they want to feel your psychology, your emotional gravity. They want to see if you can hold your ground, not just with them, but with life. If she senses weakness, she pulls back. But when you hold your line, calmly and firmly, she feels safe. She feels magnetized. Because that emotional control, that effortless detachment, is rare. And in today's world of men chasing and pleasing, a man who doesn't chase becomes an instant anomaly, one worth chasing herself. Imagine this. She texts 3 guys, one replies instantly with desperate excitement. The second showers her with praise. But the third? He waits, replies when it makes sense, speaks in full sentences, no emojis, just solid, steady energy. Which one keeps her up at night? The one with nonchalance, the one who doesn't bite the bait, the one whose time feels earned, not expected. That's not arrogance, that's leadership, and whether she admits it or not, her biology is drawn to it, because scarcity makes you matter. And mattering, that's what creates attraction. There's something about a man who can walk away, not out of anger, but out of principle. He doesn't beg, he doesn't explain himself endlessly. He gives his presence, but never chases with desperation. That kind of detachment isn't cold, it's calculated. It says, I choose who gets access to me. And when a woman senses that emotional gatekeeping, she leans in. Because a man who protects his space is a man who protects his mind. And that kind of psychology builds an aura of real, grounded masculinity. Let's flip the perspective. Imagine a man who says yes to everything she asks. She wants him to cancel his plans. He agrees. She's distant. He stays patient. She's disrespectful. He stays silent. Now compare that to a man who says, that doesn't work for me, and sticks to it. That second man, he creates an emotional friction that makes her feel attraction, not because he's difficult, but because he values his self-respect more than her temporary approval. That's what she falls for, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. Women don't fall for men they fully understand. They fall for the ones who leave a question mark at the end of every encounter. The man who isn't always available, who doesn't text back instantly, who gives just enough to make her wonder. He becomes the subject of her overthinking. That's mystery, and mystery is fuel. It fuels her imagination, her emotions, her obsession. A man who moves with boldness, not approval-seeking, becomes the puzzle she can't solve, and the longer it takes her to solve it, the deeper she falls. This doesn't mean being manipulative. It means being emotionally self-contained. You can be warm without being weak. You can be giving without being a pushover. And most importantly, you can love without losing yourself. That's the art, balancing power and heart, without leaning too far into neediness. She wants to feel your depth, not your desperation. She wants a man who owns his choices, lives by his code, and walks his path whether she joins or not. That's not cruelty, that's leadership. Think of Stoicism not as indifference, but as mastery. Mastery over the impulses that make men lose themselves in women who haven't earned them. When a woman sees a man control his emotions, not suppress them but discipline them, she recognizes strength, not gym muscles, but character strength. It's in how he speaks, how he waits, how he chooses his battles. That inner strength, it vibrates louder than any grand gesture, and it makes her feel something no approval seeker ever could: admiration. She doesn't need you to agree with everything she says. In fact, she respects you more when you challenge her, when you bring your truth to the table without fear. That doesn't mean dominating conversations or playing the alpha. It means being honest, grounded, solid in your beliefs. And when she tries to test that, because she will, you don't fold. You respond with calm, with confidence, with frame. And in doing so, you shift the dynamic from boy meets girl to woman meets man. That shift is everything. Here's where most men fall apart. They get a little attention, and suddenly they abandon themselves to keep it. They stop hanging out with their friends. They stop working on their purpose. They become emotional butlers in exchange for affection. But a man with self-worth doesn't play that game. He doesn't negotiate his identity for someone else's comfort. He lives in authenticity, and that alone creates tension. And that tension, that's the electric charge that keeps her coming back. There's a power in stillness. When a woman throws emotional chaos your way, the average man reacts. He defends, he explains, he tries to fix it. But the man who holds his ground, who breathes, listens, and responds without emotional panic, that man sends a different message. He communicates dominance without aggression. His calm becomes contagious. She starts to mirror his emotional control. That's when the energy shifts, because she realizes he doesn't just react to the world, he shapes it. Let's talk about rejection, because most men fear it like death. But the man who understands his worth doesn't fear losing someone who can't meet his standard. He knows that saying no might push people away, and he's okay with that. Why? Because the alternative is worse, losing yourself to keep someone else. Women don't fall for the man who's afraid of being alone. They fall for the one who chooses solitude over self-betrayal. That kind of detachment is attractive, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares deeply about who he's becoming. And here's what most guys miss. She's not looking for perfection. She's watching how you carry yourself under pressure. She notices when you compromise your values just to keep her smiling, and over time that kills her respect. But when you say no calmly, firmly, and without guilt, something changes. She pauses. She feels it in her body. That presence, that stillness, it lingers. It says, "I am not here to be owned. I am here to be respected." And that shift, from approval-seeking to power, is what makes her fall. And here, a pause. Because if this type of content is opening your eyes to things that used to fly under your radar, don't wait. Hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Seriously, this is just the beginning. What comes next will change the way you show up in every relationship. Let's keep going. Have you ever noticed how a woman will suddenly become more affectionate when you pull your energy back? That's not manipulation. It's a shift in polarity. When your energy is too available, it loses weight. But when you reclaim it, when you focus on your mission, your space, your mind, she feels the vacuum. She feels the gravity return. That's scarcity, and it drives attraction like nothing else. The man who knows how to say no isn't just withholding. He's leading the emotional dance with deliberate steps. A man's time is his most valuable asset. The moment you give it away to anyone who asks, it loses power. But the man who protects his time, his focus, and his energy, he becomes rare. He's no longer a background character in her story. He becomes the mountain, unmoving, present, grounded. That kind of man triggers something primal in her. It's not about playing games, it's about owning your life. And when she sees that, she doesn't try to control you. She respects your boundaries and wants to earn a place within them. Let's revisit the idea of being nice. Too many men confuse authenticity with people-pleasing. Being kind isn't the problem. The problem is kindness without a backbone. She doesn't want a pushover. She wants a man who knows when to give and when to hold firm. A man whose no has just as much integrity as his yes. And when you consistently uphold that line, she begins to trust you. Not because you agree with her, but because you're consistent. That's how you build trust, and trust is the bedrock of desire. Women are intuitive. They feel when your actions are driven by fear, especially the fear of losing them. That energy seeps into every interaction, every text, every decision. But when your actions are grounded in self-worth, they feel different. They feel clean, sharp, undeniable. You don't need to over-explain, over-justify, or overthink. You act. And when you act from a place of psychology and self-possession, you become a mirror to her, showing her what strength really looks like. She might resist at first. She might push harder when you begin asserting yourself. But don't confuse resistance with rejection. Often, it's her way of testing your foundation. She wants to feel your inner strength, to know that you won't collapse under pressure. And if you stay calm, if you hold your line with quiet stoicism, she'll begin to relax into your frame because deep down, every woman is looking for that anchor. And only a man who's anchored in himself can offer that. There's this moment that happens in every healthy dynamic where she realizes, he doesn't need me, he chooses me. That shift hits differently because when you're no longer seeking to prove yourself, you naturally start attracting more than you ever imagined. Opportunities, respect, desire. You're not trying to be impressive. You're just living with discipline, and it shows. The best part? You stop chasing love and start living in alignment. And alignment is magnetic. Women may not always verbalize this, but they admire a man who walks away from what doesn't serve him, especially when it's hard, especially when emotions are high. That choice, choosing long-term value over short-term pleasure, cements you in her memory. And the truth is, even if it ends, you're the man she won't forget. Why? Because you were solid. Because you held the line. Because you had presence. And in today's world, that's rare. And rare is always attractive. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man named Carter. Soft-spoken, intelligent, generous. He did everything right. Flowers, good mornings, dinners, affection on demand. But deep down, he was exhausted. Not because she asked too much, but because he never said no. She lost respect. The sparkle died. Until one day he changed. He started saying no with calm authority. He stopped apologizing for his limits. And you know what happened? She came back. Not because he begged, but because she finally saw a man with self-respect, and that changed everything. Carter's story isn't unique. It's the blueprint of many men who wake up too late, but it doesn't have to be that way. You don't need to wait until you're drained to shift your approach. Start now. Practice in small ways. Decline plans you don't want. Hold back an unnecessary apology. Pause before replying to pressure. These tiny acts of discipline build a strong frame. And each time you do it, you send a signal, not just to her, but to yourself, that you are no longer willing to live out of alignment. This transformation doesn't require aggression. It requires clarity. Knowing what you stand for. Knowing what you will and won't allow in your life. That clarity comes from reflection, from studying your past patterns, from observing what drains or empowers you. It's psychology, not force. And when you operate from that place, your no becomes an extension of your truth, not a tool to control her, but a way to honor yourself. And honoring yourself is what creates long-term attraction. Saying no should feel like breathing, not dramatic, not tense. It's a calm extension of your boundaries. The goal isn't to impress her. The goal is to remain authentic under pressure. And authenticity requires awareness. Ask yourself, where have I been overgiving? Where have I been afraid to disappoint? These are your clues. Use them. Because when you remove the fear from your no, you free yourself, and that freedom radiates. She will feel it even before you speak. You are not her project. You are not her emotional pet. You are a man with a mission, and the woman who walks beside you must respect that mission. If she doesn't, it's your job, not hers, to protect it. That protection starts with the word no, not as a wall to keep love out, but as a filter to let only the right kind in. That's leadership. That's power. And women don't just fall for that. They surrender to it willingly. It's easy to fall back into old habits, especially when you care, especially when you don't want to lose her. But remember, presence is more powerful than availability. When you show up in your truth, you don't need to beg, chase, or convince, you just are. And the more you embody that truth, the less you need tactics. Attraction isn't built on effort, it's built on energy. And your energy, when rooted in boldness, will always speak louder than words. Some men will hear this and think, that's too harsh. I just want to be loved. And that's fair. But here's the truth. Love without boundaries is bondage. If she can walk all over you, she won't love you more, she'll feel burdened by you. You must be the kind of man who can love deeply while standing firmly in his truth. That's not contradictory. That's the definition of emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is the sexiest thing you'll ever wear. When you learn to say no, you stop negotiating your worth. You no longer shrink yourself to be more digestible. You stop trading your fire for false peace. And ironically, that's when peace actually shows up. Not the kind that comes from comfort, but the kind that comes from alignment, from living in a way that reflects your core. That's Stoicism in action. And that still, silent clarity is what shakes her to the core. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to know everything to be respected. What you need is to know yourself, to know your line, to live from your center. That kind of inner strength doesn't require approval. It generates confidence all on its own. And women, they feel that difference instantly. One glance, one pause, one choice, and she knows. She may not say it, but she knows when a man isn't moved by her storms. When she finally meets that man, the one who can love her but still say no when needed, something inside her settles. The game ends. The chase becomes respect. The respect becomes desire. And that desire, it's clean, rooted, lasting. Because she doesn't just see a man, she sees a foundation, a rock, a presence that can't be shaken. And in that space, she doesn't just fall, she surrenders. The man who learns to say no reclaims his time, his energy, and ultimately, his identity. He no longer asks, how do I keep her? He asks, how do I keep myself? And in that shift, everything changes. He becomes magnetic, not because he tries to be, but because he is whole. He walks with nonchalance, but he commands respect. He leads with warmth, not weakness. And when she looks at him, she doesn't see a boy hoping for love. She sees a man rooted in power, and once she sees that, she never sees you the same way again. Now it's your move. How many times have you said yes just to avoid conflict and ended up feeling invisible? How many women slipped through your fingers not because you weren't enough, but because you gave too much, too soon, too often? The truth is, boldness, not obedience, is what leaves a mark. You don't need to chase, impress, or convince. You need to protect your boundaries, live in your authenticity, and lead with calm confidence, even when it's hard. So here's the real question. Are you finally ready to stop folding and start standing? If this video stirred something in you, if it made you reflect, question, or rethink your role as a man, then tell me in the comments, I lead with strength. Write it, own it, make it real. Thank you for watching all the way through. That already makes you different from 99% of men out there. If this helped you in any way, share it with a brother who needs to hear this. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the content that's designed to sharpen your mind and elevate your masculinity day by day. This journey isn't just about women. It's about becoming the man you were always meant to be.